you've got people, working class people, who were months ago heralded as heroes of the pandemic for keeping the goods on the shelves. These people are now being demonized, and being demonized so transparently. If you just simply do any of your own work, you can find out who these people are. In fact, I'm sure you're going to talk about it, but there's a couple of journalists who are walking around at random. And what this does is it allows you to find out the truth of the convoy by following somebody around. I happened to catch a bit of the stream this morning where he ran into people on the other side who were protesting the convoy.
He didn't run it. So this is Viva Frei,
Yep.
Vivafrei. YouTube channel. He's, I think he's a lawyer, out of Quebec, and he's been going to to Ottawa to the protests and just, doing live streams, and highly recommend. His today just ended right before we started, actually, just by coincidence. But yeah, he heard that there were going to be counter protesters there today, and he sought them out. He actively sought them out, and most of them refused to talk to him. And those who did were using, pat rhetoric and accusations that aren't true, claims of violence, claims such as we have heard over and over and over again. But the people who were actually walking around there, both who are portraying it through live streams and other, and we hear from many private people who aren't out there, publicizing what they're seeing none of this. And, are there, are there agent provocateurs on the ground? Occasionally, very few, maybe, but they're not even seeing those.
Well, but, okay, I want to go back and deal with the agent provocateur problem, because it seems to me, right, let's say there are Confederate flags, as bizarre as that is in Canada, right, or swastikas or whatever, right? You cannot live to the extent that we understand that protest is an important process, right? This is written into the American constitutional DNA. To the extent that we understand that process is important, the idea that all you have to do to shut it down is transport into it something vile, capture an image where the vile thing is present with the other thing, and then the point is, well, the other thing is no longer valid because you wouldn't want to be near a Confederate flag, would you? Essentially what you're doing is you're handing power the ability to shut down critique if you do that. So we can't do that.
I mean, not only that, but hypocrisy is not anything close to a strong enough word for what is going on here. Compare, I hope someone does this formally. I did not spend the time to compile the comparisons of the footage and the coverage of the Black Lives Matter protests that here in Portland nightly became riots for months. The media coverage of this was that it was mostly peaceful. There was actual destruction of property all the time, including actual statues. Like, that matters. This only matters because one of the few things that has been said that has any accuracy with regard to pushback against what is happening in Ottawa is that there was desecration of statues. And as far as I've seen, the desecration of statues involves having put flowers on a statue.
I saw a sign.
A sign around
on a statue.
So compare that to the toppling of statues, the beheading of statues, fake fornication with the head of statues during the protests of 2020. What could possibly explain the complete inversion of the truth in both of these cases?
Yeah, I mean, and I agree. I'm pretty good with language. I know there's supposed to be a term for what this is. It's not even the complete fictionalization of what's taking place. It is the exact inverse of what is taking place.
Exactly. In both of these cases, we're like 18 months later, and it's the exact opposite. What is happening on the ground is the exact opposite of what is being portrayed in the media. And some number of people are nodding along going, okay, I guess it's true because I saw it on the screen.
Well,
because the person who I've come to trust because I see them on my screen all the time is saying it to me, therefore it must be true.
So I had a very good discussion with one of my Patreon groups this morning, and this is functioning as a reality check in sort of the way that DarkHorse is functioning for a reality check for many people. This group of folks lives all over the world, actually, and we get to check in with what you're seeing, what I'm seeing. And, I actually was a little bit thrown this morning by the fact that what you and I are seeing about this convoy is not necessarily even what people who agree with us on the substance of COVID are seeing. So
sure.
How is that the case? But the point I want to bring out of that conversation is the question of what role a suspension of disbelief is playing in what's happening, and how much of this effectively requires the viewer to willingly accept the fiction in order not to confront the reality. And I'm seeing evidence of this all over the place, really. So I don't know what to do about it, but the fictionalization that is taking place is, and I almost never use this word, but it's evil, right? This is our civilization attacking itself by blinding people to the actual facts of their existence. But part of what is going on is that there are incentives driving people to accept the fictions, because if they looked even just slightly outside of the screen, they would understand that what they were being sold was nonsense, right? That, this is anything but a violent racist protest, right?
Yeah. So it's hard, of course, to know what people do and do not think, what people are and are not seeing. And I had wanted to go right into Dan's letter, but I think actually, given where we've been here, talking a little bit about what the mainstream media specifically has said and done, and what we're actually seeing on the ground. So don't show my screen here, Zach, but here's this is just out of a little country newspaper in Ontario from a city councillor, and it's exactly in keeping with what is in the larger outlets. The sad humor of it all. A relatively small percentage of people who have concerns about vaccines are being used by well-organized white supremacists who want to break up the country, probably funded by big oil money, although we don't know because so many donations are anonymous, and who would happily take away the freedom of the vast majority who want to go to work, visit family, go to school, and go out for dinner and a show without increased infection risk. This is fundamentally an issue of how we keep our communities safe. It is not about freedom for the few to engage in antisocial behavior, but the freedom for most people to go about their regular lives without undue fear. We make these decisions every day when we create laws. We have used vaccine mandates successfully for many decades as one way to keep society safe. Actually, it's not humorous. White supremacists see the KKK cross and many depictions praising the truck convoy are hijacking the vaccine debate for profoundly self-interested reasons. It is destructive to the country and people's rights to safety. I'm going to leave the guy's name off of that because I don't need to start a pile on, but there's so much wrong with that, and this is an elected official.
Well, it's one of two things. It has to be one of two things. Okay, that is either a window into somebody's utterly profound delusion, or it is gaslighting, right? It is attempting to convince you of the inverse of reality such that your own view of reality will look insane.
Yeah. The idea that the people out in whatever it was, like -6-degree weather today and throughout the week are out there trying to take away the freedom of others.
Oh, the selfishness of those people cheering on working class truckers.
Probably funded by big oil money.
Oh, probably.
So, by the way, this was written before GoFundMe took down, the GoFundMe for the Truckers for Freedom movement had already collected more than 10 million Canadian dollars, and something around 1 million or so had been dispersed. And then due to claims that appear to be completely false, and their reference to standard, the sort of the small print that they can make mean whatever they want to, decided not to disperse any more money. Yesterday, they were saying that you had to actually go in and request your money back, or they would distribute it to some other organizations. And today, they are saying that they're actually going to refund the money to people without you having to make their request. That's so big of them. But the idea, the idea that this is white supremacist, that this is funded by big oil, that this is about people trying to tamp down others' freedoms, that this, that it's white supremacists, the KKK, or any of this, just go and look at any of these videos that are out there. And I will read later from, or actually maybe I should read now from, this is all out of order from what I had in mind. Here we are. You can show my screen, Zach. This is from a piece called A Night with the Untouchables. I'll just read the first and the last paragraphs. And again, I'll link to everything in the show notes. I live in downtown Ottawa, right in the middle of the trucker convoy protest. They are literally camped out below my bedroom window. My new neighbors moved in on Friday, and they seem determined to stay. I've read a lot about what my new neighbors are supposedly like, mostly from reporters and columnists who write from distant vantage points somewhere in the media heartland of Canada. Apparently, the people who inhabit the patch of asphalt next to my bedroom are white supremacists, racists, hate-mongers, pseudo-Trumpian grifters, and even QAnon-style nutters. I have a perfect view down Kent Street, the absolute ground zero of the convoy. In the morning, I see some protesters emerge from their trucks to stretch their legs, but mostly throughout the day they remain in their cabs, honking their horns. At night, I see small groups huddled in quiet conversations in their newfound companionship. There is no honking at night. What I haven't noticed, not even once, are reporters from any of Canada's news agencies walking among the trucks to find out who these people are. So last night, I decided to do just that. I introduced myself to my new neighbors. This is not someone, and he then talks about the people he meets. And this is not someone who I think was particularly favorable to or inspired by this movement. He lives there, and he wanted to go meet them because it was clear to him that what he was seeing out his window without even having talked to them was a mismatch for what he was hearing on the news. And he tells his story, and he tells the story of the people he's met, and it's amazing. And so I'm just going to finish the last paragraph. As I finally made my way back home after talking to dozens of truckers into the night, I realized I met someone from every province except Prince Edward Island. They all have a deep love for this country. They believe in it. They believe in Canadians. These are the people that Canada relies on to build its infrastructure, deliver its goods, and fill the ranks of its military in times of war. The overwhelming concern they have is that the vaccine mandates are creating an untouchable class of Canadians. They didn't make highfalutin arguments from Plato's Republic, Locke's treatises, or Bagahot's, interpretation of Westminster parliamentary systems. Instead, they see their government willing to push a class of people outside the boundaries of society, deny them a livelihood, and deny them full membership in the most welcoming country in the world. And they said, enough. Last night, I learned my new neighbors are not a monstrous, faceless, occupying mob. They are our moral conscience, reminding us with every blow of their horns what we should have never forgotten. We are not a country that makes an untouchable class out of our citizens.
So I'm reminded of this. I think I've talked about this once before on a live stream, but I think it's worth revisiting. There's a moment in the movie The Truman Show. Truman is beginning to figure out that the world is being constructed around him for the purpose of misleading him so that he will, do for the cameras what is necessary for the Truman Show to be successful. Mm-hmm. And as he begins to get wise to this, there's a moment where he takes his wife, an actress hired to play his wife, but he doesn't know it, into the car, and he starts behaving erratically. Mm-hmm. And the point is the entire premise of the Truman Show depends on the fact that he is predictable enough that they can construct reality ahead of him before he gets there.
Yeah.
And so he's driving around this roundabout like a maniac, because the point is nobody knows what road he's going to take out of there. And so the people who make the Truman Show happen are freaking out because he's not doing what he needs to do. And the point is that behavior is necessary, right? You're being told that these people are X. You need to behave unpredictably and go find out if they are X. And if they're not, what does that tell you about the Truman Show you're living in?
Yeah.
Right? That's the place we are. And so this is really the question, is if people are suspending their own disbelief and buying this bullshit, all they need to do is just flip that one bit, right? You don't need to revamp your whole way of viewing the world. What you need to do is flip that one bit and say, I am no longer going to do my part in accepting this story. I'm just going to spot check it.
Yeah.
I'm going to see whether the story adds up. And when you find out that every place you spot check it, it breaks through. It's rice paper thin, right? Then the point is, okay, what would have to be true for that to be right? Right? If every news channel is either not reporting this story or reporting it upside down, what does that tell me about what those news channels are? What does it tell me about what else is on them? Right?
Right.
That's what we have to do.